All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for a few real people out there, just a few, just like you right there, and just like me. All right, before I get rolling on this video, this album here by August Zadra, okay, it's called Guiding Star. This is really good. Just check it out, all right? August plays lead guitar and sings in Dennis DeYoung's touring band, right? In case you didn't know who he was, he's been doing this for years. He's been toiling in virtual anonymity over the past decade or so, maybe longer. He is really good. By the way, vocals on this album, fantastic. If you like Tommy Shaw, I think you'll like August Zadra. Also, my good buddy, I don't know if I can call him a good buddy, he probably would resent that, but my friend Jeff Scott Soto singing on this, background vocals, and you can hear it. You can hear Jeff back there, and he's doing a great job. So definitely check it out. It's been out for several months now, and one of the better melodic rock albums of 2020. Speaking of Dennis DeYoung and Styx, you know, Styx just turned 50 years old, and so JY had to do an interview. And when JY does interviews and he talks about Dennis DeYoung, it's just I don't like it. I don't know what else to say about it. I don't like it. We get the history of the band where it was Dennis and the Pinozo brothers, and you know, and then JY comes along in 1969 and he saves it, because the band was going nowhere. And then JY may have injected energy into the situation. This other guy, John Kuralewski, not sure if I'm saying his name right, but they brought these two guys in who were, you know, more hard-edged than Dennis and the Pinozos, right? And so Styx started to take off and didn't do anything, by the way, for a number of years. I mean, talk about going through a dry spell, the wood nickel years. Dennis wrote this song called Lady, which they don't talk about, because what? It's just like the song that launched the band. So it's no big deal, Lady, right? They fast forward immediately to Mr. Roboto. And JY loves to talk about Mr. Roboto because Mr. Roboto, in JY's brain, right, Mr. Roboto ruined everything for Styx, even though, by the way, the band is now playing that song, or they were playing. I don't know if they dropped it out of their set. I know Styx is out on tour with REO Speedwagon and Loverboy, and from what I've heard, I think they're still performing the song, but maybe they're not. But they had to add the song back into their set because people were complaining. They were going to these shows. They're going, okay, you guys don't play Don't Let It End. You don't play Mr. Roboto. You don't play The Best of Times, right? You don't play Babe. That's 4 really big songs. Show Me the Way would be 5, right? Of course, I'm not going to ever play Show Me the Way, but that's 5. Those are, some bands don't have 5 hits to bring to, you know, a concert. They just go out there with their name. Hey, we're so-and-so. We had 2 big songs. Like Foghat, right? How many songs did Foghat have on the radio? Like 2, 3? Slow Ride, right? You can listen to Slow Ride. I know they had a couple other album tracks that did fairly well, but you know, people go to see Foghat. They're like, hey man, it's Foghat. Okay, that show will be over in 20 minutes, right? But with Styx, you had 5 songs that I've named, and there are probably others that they don't play, that Dennis DeYoung was intimately involved with. And Roboto is a song that for some reason really just, I don't know, polarizes people, but it shouldn't. It shouldn't. We are 40 years removed from the moment when that song debuted, right? Just about 40 years, something like that, 39 years. And I don't know why people just can't let it go. You know, oh, I was so against that song. This is JY. I was so against that song because this thing was targeted at 7-year-olds. 7-year-olds. Okay. And wrong answer. Wrong answer. I was not 7 when that song hit the radio. And there were a lot of people, I would say teenagers and just people that were watching MTV who loved that song, absolutely loved it. I don't, saying it was targeted at 7-year-olds is the most ridiculous thing. And here's why. Because the subject matter in Roboto, we're actually living it right now. You know, this transhuman crap that we're starting to see out in the world. Hey, you know, you want to kind of meld with the machines and be one with the cloud, because it's here. It's not coming. It's here. So Dennis DeYoung, about 40 years ahead of the curve when it comes to writing about a topic that, you know, wasn't probably designed for 7-year-olds. I don't think 7-year-olds really understood what Roboto was about. As far as the way the song sounds, was it different? Yes, it was different from the Styx that you had heard prior to this. Keep in mind, the techno portion of the 80s was beginning to really flourish. So it wasn't stupid to make a song that fit in with the times. The song hit number 3, I believe, on the charts. And it's the only single, according to JY, that has sold over 1 million records. He goes on, he skips a little bit of history here, JY. He says, I refuse to play it, particularly after Dennis was not involved in the band anymore. And why wasn't he involved in the band anymore, JY? Why wasn't he? Anybody out there want to answer that? This is such an interview of omission. You know, I had said, you know, I'm not going to do any more videos about Styx because this is just, it's stupid. It's ridiculous what these guys are doing to Dennis DeYoung. Like, they can't just celebrate the 50 years and say, you know what? Everybody involved with Styx was really important, but we're going to just go right to Mr. Roboto. And we're going to say how, you know, Mr. Roboto was the reason that Styx broke up. Okay, I get that. But, you know, when you walk away from a band, you know, don't make it sound like, you know, this guy was too controlling. And because this is the lesson, even though off the record, this guy here told me that Dennis DeYoung is a great guy, very easy to get along with. This guy who's in his band now. So what, did Dennis just change after he left Styx? No. I mean, look, Dennis, he's theatrical. He's got that sort of vaudevillian thing going on, Broadway show tunes or whatever. And these guys hate that. Tommy Shaw and the real tough rockers, they just hate it because, look, they want Styx to be more like Kansas, or they want Styx to be more like REO Speedwagon. I don't know what they want. And by the way, REO, isn't their biggest song a power ballad, right? I mean, there's so many contradictions that I can't keep up with them. So I'll just continue because I'm reading this because this is just, it's interesting. So Dennis is not in the band anymore. Why? Because they threw Dennis out of the band. That's why. It's an important detail. We got rid of Dennis. Dennis isn't involved in the band anymore. So I refuse to play it because Dennis wasn't involved in the band anymore because we fired Dennis DeYoung. That's what happened. And then he sued us. Oh, why would he sue us? Because he was a founding member of the band. You just got through telling us that, you know, earlier on in the article with the John Kirilouski and the Panozzos, and, you know, those are the good old days of, you know, the founding of Styx, right? But, you know, nothing really happened during those years, and wasn't until, you know, I came along, JY, to kind of have the spark lit. And then Dennis wrote that song called Lady, which, again, they don't really talk about here. So I don't really understand what this accomplishes. This is supposed to be celebrating 50 years of Styx, but it's about, you know, bashing on a guy who was extremely important to the band. So anyway, he goes on to say here, but maybe 2 or 3 years ago, we all sat down. Okay, we've been playing the same songs for a long time. Is there any song that maybe we're overlooking that the fans really want to hear? Now, the story allegedly is people were hounding the merch guys, and they were saying, hey, how come, Styx doesn't play Mr. Roboto? We love that song. Wait, Styx fans aren't supposed to like Roboto. They're only supposed to like, the proggy, super proggy stuff. They're not supposed to like that techno piece of pop garbage that Dennis DeYoung composed. I mean, the song was written for 7-year-olds. Well, keep in mind, if the song was actually written for 7-year-olds, which I don't think it was, how old are the 7-year-olds now? They were born in what, 1976 or something like that? So those people are old enough now to go, you know what? That's my song. I've seen it in a Volkswagen commercial. It's all over the place. Culturally, the song was everywhere for a number of years, right? It's still on the radio. Any good 80s radio station plays it. 80s shows, specific to just that decade, playing the song. I mean, how can you deny the power of that song? It's just a great hook, and great hooks stand the test of time, and that's Dennis DeYoung. And, you couple that with Babe, which they don't play, which they'll never play. I mean, they'll play Roboto, but they're not going to play Babe. So they sit down, have this meeting, and the 5 songs that were all big chart hits, the ones that I named off, like Show Me the Way, they're not going to play that. Don't Let It End, they're not going to play that. The Best of Times, they're not going to play that. So you've got, a literal handful of songs which they're not allowing their fans to hear. They'll go deep into these albums, from the late 70s, because that's the Tommy Shaw wheelhouse. That's the time where they're a real rock band. They're a manly band, and they're putting out their testosterone, and that's what people really want to hear. No, here's the truth, JY, and I'm not always in agreement with this truth, but here it is. People want to hear the hits. People want to hear the hits. People don't have the attention span that the musicians have. Just like when I was a DJ, I loved it when we would get a new single in because it was something new to play. I was bored. I was tired of playing the other songs. And so I was all enthusiastic about it, but you put it on the radio and people are like, what the hell is that? Where are the hits? I want to hear the hits. Eventually that song might become a hit, but they're not ready for it yet. They want you to go back and keep playing the songs that you've been playing over and over again. It's just human nature. It takes a long time to feel comfortable with certain songs. So anyway, he goes on to tell this story. We sat down with our merch guy. He gets complaints from people. I love how they sat down with the merch guy. All right. He hears all of the complaints, plus our lighting director, who has to stand far back in the hall so she can see the full perspective and how to flash this light on, that, etc. The two of them said the most requested song by people leaving that you don't play is Mr. Roboto. Oh, okay. So, they hated the song. They weren't going to play it because, Dennis sued the band. It makes no sense. They make the timeline like this. Okay. So Dennis is no longer involved with Styx. Why? Well, they don't say, but they fired him. That's why he's no longer involved in Styx. Then they say, well, because he's no longer involved, we don't play Roboto. Roboto isn't really what Styx is all about, especially these days when we've got these 2 amazing albums we put out over the last 4 or 5 years. Have you heard about the Mission to Mars? Man, oh man. So it's funny because they've got Will Evankovich, the guy who co-wrote everything on that album. Apparently he's now in Styx. I didn't know that. It's an interesting lineup. There's talent there, but it's missing one key ingredient, and that would be a keyboard player who sounds like Dennis DeYoung. Or you could just bring Dennis in. Now, the punchline to all of this is that Dennis DeYoung just wanted one more shot at this. Notice how it's the 50th anniversary of Styx. And even in an interview, these guys are blowing off Dennis DeYoung. They're basically still backing up the bus and backing it up over Dennis DeYoung. It's like, why? You should be celebrating all of this great music that everybody did, whether it's Tommy, whether it's Dennis, even JY, But no, this is all about the ongoing feud, which I don't even think Dennis is interested in anymore. How about you just do an interview and say, you know what, Dennis was a very creative guy, gave us a lot of great music. We wish him well. We wish him well. These stories about, it's like you have to justify why you're playing rubato. How about, here's an easy justification, guys. It's a good song. Just like Don't Let It End is a good song. Just like The Best of Times is a really good song. Babe, okay? #1 record for the band. #1 song. Nobody can do that song except for Dennis. They can't send old Larry Gowan out there to do it. It would be sacrilegious. But they'll never do it because it's just too soft. Even though at the time, the band loved the song. From every news report, everything I've scoured through during that period of time, Styx, they were all on the same page. The story is Dennis played the song for his wife, and everybody in the room was blown away by it. And they essentially just added all of the other parts to the song. Dennis noodling on the keyboards. They kept everything the way it was at that moment and just added, Tommy's amazing guitar. He puts a great guitar solo on that. It's just a great, it's a great single. And people who were, going to high school at that time, whatever your memories are of that song, that's huge. And you weren't like, oh man, Styx just wimped out on us. Look at what happened to Styx. You listen to the rest of the album if you don't like that one song. But these guys just can't accept the fact that you can have rockers and you can have ballads and you can have mid-tempo songs, and doesn't always have to sound like some ELP song or something. It just, here's Styx. Everything about Styx. It's like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You get that creative tension, which I think is productive, because then you have a guy that writes a pure pop song, and then you have another guy comes along and says, hey, I think we should make this a little more rock, and here's how we can do it. And then you merge those ideas together, and then you have a better song. You have a song that appeals to more people too. So anyway, the interviewer says, Dennis is a very energetic guy. I'm going to wrap this up because I've been rambling here. Was he always that way, even in the early days of the band? Oh yeah, Dennis was the oldest guy in the band, and he's obviously a very talented guy. And then he switches. The Pinoza brothers lived down the street from him, so it was kind of natural for them to at least try and work together, which they did. But he goes on to say, my trademark was Foxy Lady, because going to engineering school, I had a guy with electronics who could get the feedback that Jimi Hendrix gets. So what does JY do? He literally switches the subject. Like, oh yeah, Dennis is a real energetic guy. He's old. And he was hanging out with the Pinoza brothers. Let's talk about the Pinoza brothers, because Chuck, every so often, Chuck will show up and he plays with us still, Chuck Pinoza. No, let's not talk about Dennis. It's like they go out of their way to throw the guy under the bus every single time. And now he's talking about his trademark Foxy Lady. Yes, because when I think of Jimi Hendrix, in the same breath, I'm thinking James Young. Yeah, because he's right up there with Hendrix. There's very few guitar players that can compete with Jimi Hendrix. But yeah, JY. Yeah, absolutely. So in any event, people, one more time on this terrific album. This is Dennis DeYoung's current guitar player. And I'm not saying he's better than Tommy Shaw, but if you like Tommy Shaw, but again, August has his own thing too. This isn't just about being Tommy. This is about being August. And you should check this out. August Zadra, Guiding Star, available now, Frontiers Music. Dennis DeYoung, I think, plays keyboards on one track, and Jeff Scott Soto sings all over it. So it's guaranteed to be great. It's fantastic. And, one last thing about Styx, right? This would have been an amazing opportunity to get everybody together one last time during the 50th anniversary of the band, and they chose not to do it. I know promoters were working on it. I know people behind the scenes were trying to negotiate something, and it fell through. And it fell through because you got JY and Tommy, who own this band, who pushed Dennis out. And yes, Dennis had every right to sue these guys. Basically, so Dennis could say, Dennis DeYoung and the music of Styx. Because I'm sorry, Dennis was a lot of that music, if not a majority of it. Not only was he a majority of it, but his material made the band the most money, with, apologies to Blue Collar Man and Renegade. I mean, there are a couple of songs that are really big Tommy songs, but the difference is those Dennis songs did really well at top 40, hence Roboto, over 1 million copies out there. And Dennis did that. Dennis did not have the approval or the support from his other bandmates at the time. And, they wanted to go in a certain direction. Dennis wanted to go in his direction. I think eventually they could have worked it out. Probably by the end of the decade, they could have been back to their old selves. You saw a lot of artists who kind of strayed in a different direction, like Billy Squier comes to mind, who strayed into more of a techno synthesizer sound. Pat Benatar did the same thing. By the end of the decade, they were back to doing what they did best, which was rock out. So in any event, I think you could have had the best of both worlds with Styx. I just think you need that creative tension that was Tommy Shaw and Dennis DeYoung, and now there's no creative tension because, hey, we're all on board trying to sound like Queen or the Beatles or Pink Floyd or whatever it is that we're trying to do. We're just celebrating all of those bands and kind of mixing it into our sound now that Dennis isn't here to hold us back. So yeah, there's a lot to say about this. And there are a lot of people on this page and on Patreon, on my page as well, that, I don't know, I guess they are sad that it has to end this way, that it has to go in this direction where these people just can't, come together and say, look, I'm not going to be your roommate, but why don't you show up and do a few gigs with us? I mean, this is the 50th anniversary. I mean, if you're a Styx fan, you should be sending them messages saying, you know what? I like you guys. And I do. I've told people this is still a good band. Their last 2 records are interesting. They're decent. They're good. If any other band put those out, a new band, I would say, wow, this is really talented. But Styx, they used to operate at such a high level that, this stuff to me is good, but without Dennis, it's not as good as their heyday. It could be as good as that time period, but you don't have that creative force. Hence, you bring in outside songwriters, you bring in somebody who helped you with one record to join the band and so forth. That's fine. That's fine. But it's just not the same. And Dennis, I think, is getting to the point in his life where I don't know if he wants to be on the road anymore. And yeah, that's going to be their argument. See, he just doesn't want to go on the road. He just wanted one last tour to celebrate everything. And these guys have obviously said no. And not only are they saying no, but they're still, backing up the bus and driving it over Dennis DeYoung. So, all right, I've rambled too much here and losing my train of thought. I don't really have a train of thought. It's more like a bus, right? It's more like an old jalopy. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Patreon for a measly $1 a month if you want to help support the channel. I could use your help during the summer months here as people try to go on vacation, even though it's difficult because, $5 gallon gas, maybe you'll just stay home and watch the videos. I don't know, but if you watch them, that's helpful too. All right, done. See you soon.